Coming up on the Code Bet Daily NRL show, it is round 26. We have 2 home and away rounds to go. This is sort of the last week where every team has something to play for, so we're pretty confident with the punt this week, aren't we, Phil?
Indeed we are. Yeah, we've found plenty of nice try scorer bets that we like, and we've gone aggressive. I just tip a couple of upsets, full stop, not just teams with the head start, just the outsider, full stop. So it's worth tuning in for that alone.
He also rates my multi a shockingly low number, but you need to go check it out now because it's the Code Bet NRL show and it's coming your way right now. Welcome to the Code Bet Daily for NRL Round 26 action. I'm your host, Alex Donnelly. I am joined, as always, by Phil Pryor. He is somewhere in the kitchen in the depths of Sydney. I love the different background this week. We've had a few different ones. It's 3 in 3 weeks for Phil, but I love it. How are we, Phil?
That's true. You know what they say about things getting hot in the kitchen? It's that time of year in the NRL as well.
That was unplanned, but I absolutely love it. We, of course, are writers for codebet.com.au. You should go check that out. Absolutely everything up there at the moment. AFL, of course, NRL. A World Cup look went up the other day. FIBA World Cup is up there at the moment as well as EPL and everything else. Phil is happy. Brighton are 2-0, and on top of the ladder, I'm happy. Arsenal are 2-0, and our Swans have made the final. So life is great at the moment. But we are here for NRL, so let's not waste time. Tonight at 7:50, the Penrith Panthers will smash the Parramatta Eels, as the Panthers are $1.10. The Eels are $9, which is unbelievable. Minus 18.5 for the Panthers, plus 9.5 for Parramatta, over under 43.5. And as we get to the point where there's only 2 games left in the season, the Eels having such a pathetic start to the season is going to cost them finals, and this looks to be the final nail in the coffin.
Yeah, well, the final nail in the coffin was last week,
True.
To be fair. And this looms as a pretty interesting game, I think, to be honest.
It's a derby. We forgot to mention that.
It is, and I suppose one of the elements to this is, it, as you say, local derby, but the Eels have shown up time and again against this Panthers juggernaut in the midst of this premiership, back-to-back premiership run, and even going back that third year as well. When the Panthers broke through for their 2021 premiership, the Eels, in controversial circumstances, nearly beat them in that semi-final week. And they've played some good games since then. They haven't all been tight. But I've got a feeling that this one will be tighter than what the odds makers are letting on. Dylan Edwards won't play. It looks like Sunia Taruva, their left winger, will also drop out. So they'll play 2 young, inexperienced outside backs in those 2 spots, Jesse McLean and Tom Jenkins. They do get Brian To'o back on the right wing, which is obviously a boost. And I think they've got Isaac Tungor back as well on the left side. So 2 outs, 2 in. No, in fact, no Tungor. So it is Tyron Peachy playing left centre once again, or they might swap that with Stephen Crichton. I'm not sure, but suppose I'm building up to suggesting that I think the Eels will fight tooth and nail in this game. I think they'll scrap. I think they'll keep it closer than what the line suggests. I think they're giving the Eels a massive head start at the line. I love the Eels with 19.5 point start. Yeah. Spoiler alert, it's one of my bets of the weekend, I think. This is the Eels' final game of their season as well. They've got the bye next week, which is interesting. So
Mad Monday starts very early.
They've got a long weekend of drinking ahead, and you would think that they will. The only thing that concerns me about that sort of factor is that if the Panthers do jump out to a 14 or 16 point start, the Eels will just put the cue in the rack. But on the flip side of that, I think you could see that Ivan Cleary giving some of his boys early showers if they do jump out to a bit of a start. Whereas the Eels, it's all or nothing really. Like they're playing a full strength side. They've got Sean Lane coming back after a horror year of injuries for him. So outside of Mitchell Moses' absence, the Eels look pretty much a good team on paper. So I like them. The Panthers halftime, full-time double result is decent at $1.25. 6 of their last 7 matches, they've done that.
Yeah.
Brian To'o at $1.60. It's been a long time since he's missed out when he's played. Stephen Crichton's been on a really strong try-scoring run as well. He's $1.94 via Ladbrokes. And I think this one probably does stay a little bit tight and tense and go the under 43.5 total points as well. Yep. Penrith's obviously very proficient defensively. How many points will the Eels actually have in them without Moses steering the team around? So I like the under. But yeah, I think the Eels with the 19.5 point starter are special. That value has come in since Edwards was ruled out, admittedly. But what's stopping Ivan from maybe pulling the pin on a couple other stars before kickoff?
Yeah.
So that's my one concern there. And my long shot try scoring bet. I know this has been a long-winded answer. Apologies. But Dylan Brown, anytime try scorer for the Eels, he's paying $6.40 via Ladbrokes. Look, he's a big game player. He normally steps up against the Panthers, gets through an enormous work rate most weeks as a half, particularly with his running game. And I think there's an opportunity or two here where he tucks the ball under the arm and steps off the left foot or looms up in support, and I think he's great value at $6.40 for an anytime try scorer bet.
Just logging into my Ladbrokes account as we speak. But yeah, we do mention this, that Parramatta have won 3 of the last 5 between the two. So, and they haven't been beaten by more than 19 points in the 2 losses. So that means that we'd cover the 19.5. So I don't mind that bet whatsoever. And Penrith, it almost feels like if Penrith get out to like an 18-0 lead, it's like, yeah, righto, boys, pack her up, and they win like 24-10 or something, and the line's sort of not in doubt too much. But let's move on. You did say we got long-winded there. There'll be some games we rip through, let's be honest, because there is a couple of blowouts, but a couple of interesting ones throughout the weekend. One of the blowouts looks to be Friday night at 6 p.m. as the New Zealand Warriors at Go Media Stadium are $1.15 hosting the St George Illawarra Dragons at $5.90, minus 16.5 for the Warriors. 17.5 start for the Dragons, over 48.5, under 49.5. St George have lost their last 20 away matches when they have been the bookies' outsider. I think St George get beaten easily here, but geez, 3 tries is a big line.
Yeah, it is, but I will keep this one a bit shorter, I suppose. That's the stat, as you mentioned it, that this is a Dragons team that has to fly across the ditch for this game. The Warriors at home, coming off a pretty tight battle, it must be said. But I think they'll be up for it. They need to win this to secure top 4 and guarantee themselves at least one home final. Yep. So if that's not going to get them pumped up, I don't know what will. 5 of the Warriors' last 6 have gone over the total points line, and a number of recent Dragons games, albeit losses, they've still scored points.
Yeah.
The Dragons, they've lost 7 of their last 8, but across that stretch, the lowest points that they've put together is 14. So they've generally scored at least 3 tries. They scored 28 against Melbourne last week, as we might all recall.
Wow.
So I think this one's going to fly over into the 50s. I like that, $1.91 via Bet365. That's a nice bet. In 4 of the Dragons' last 6 games, it's been the opposition left winger that scored the first try. So that sets up nicely for Marcelo Montoya on the Warriors' left edge, up against Michaeli Ravalawa, who is also always a great try-scoring bet. So I think there's going to be plenty of tries down that side of the pitch this weekend. Ravalawa, he just continues to be a smash value because the Dragons are such heavy outsiders most weeks. He's scored 11 tries from his last 7 games, and he's $2.25 on Bet365 this week. So I think the Warriors will pull away and secure a top 4 berth, but I'm with the Warriors minus 16.5 points despite this game going over, despite the fact I think the Dragons will score some points.
Well, the last game was 48-18, so we got into the 60s there, so the 50s could well and truly be on. 7th and 10th, you've got Newcastle on 31 points and the Roosters on 28 points. We're assuming that the Eels down are basically out, and it looks that way. So the Cowboys do need to get a win here, or they could be in some trouble.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the factor that I sort of can't look past in this game. This has been a tough slog for the Dolphins down the stretch this year, of course, losing 9 of their last 10 games. And 6 of Redcliffe's last 7 have landed under. Yep. That's how I think this one will pan out as well. I don't rate the Cowboys enough to think that they've got 40 points in them in this game. So I like the under here at $1.91, under the 49.5 points total with $1.91 with Bet365. But yeah, I think the Cowboys will pull away. I like the Cowboys 13 plus actually at $2.30 via Ladbrokes. I think Scott Drinkwater is a very good chance of continuing his try-scoring run. He scored in 6 straight night games for the Cowboys, interestingly, 8 from his last 10 as well. Slow start to the season, a great round 1 for Drinkwater, but then a slow first half of the year. Okay. He has got things moving down the back stretch. I like Jermaine Isako as a comeback option for the Dolphins as an anytime try scorer. He's scored in their last 4 games at least once, and he's been lights out. I think he's up to 20 tries for the season, which was something that nobody predicted at pre-round 1. No. But yeah, I like the Cowboys minus the 8.5 point start, and the nice value there is with Ladbrokes, $1.90.
Okay, nice and easy. Let's move on to Saturday afternoon, 3 p.m. at Amy Park. The Melbourne Storm are $1.10. The Gold Coast Titans are $7.20. The line minus 18.5 for the Storm, plus 20.5. That is a lot for the Titans. Over under is 14.5. And here's the weird featured insight that we have. 16 of the last 17 teams that have played Penrith have covered in their next match. I love that.
That is quite bizarre, isn't it?
I need to find out who the one is, and I should have looked into that.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I don't know what to make of that, but it's fascinating. The Storm, similar to the Warriors, that they've still got something to play for here. Yeah. It would look as though one more win secures them top 4, but if the Sharks are to get home in Newcastle on Sunday, that's not necessarily the case. So yeah, I can't see Bellamy having any sort of laid outs in this one. I think they'll try and put the foot down as well, because their points differential with the Sharks, there's only 7 points difference there as well. So he wouldn't mind winning well in this game. Obviously a massive opportunity to win well against the 13th placed Gold Coast Titans. So so that's kind of the main factor heading into this one. 8 of Melbourne's last 9 day matches have gone over. They don't mind playing a day game. There was these 2 sides played on the Gold Coast in about round 3 or 4 earlier this year, and it was an absolute points bonanza. I don't know if you quite recall that one. In fact, I think the Titans ended up winning that game, 38-34.
Yeah, Titans won.
Back in round 3. So that was a crazy one.
The Titans have covered in 4 straight as well.
Yeah. I love one of the potential bets that's popping up is Pappenhausen anytime try scorer at only $2.10 on one betting market.
Come on. He hasn't played for 15 years, it feels like.
I know. Pappenhausen has scored at least 1 try in 10 of his last 11 appearances at Amy Park, apparently. Don't mind the fact that he hasn't played an NRL game in over 12 months.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's those sort of stats are ones you look at and you go, yeah, okay, maybe you want to see him do it before backing him in, unless you're getting a good price. But yeah, you're not really getting any help there. But it sort of looks like, Melbourne are weird to me. I thought they were cooked, and then all of a sudden, they're in the top 4. Sure, that feels so Melbourne Storm.
Yeah, exactly. I've got a nice try scoring outsider. I was on him last week and it failed, but I'm going back to the well with Storm right centre Marion Sever. He's paying $2.85 anytime try scorer. Again, the simple equation is this is Melbourne Storm at home in a day game against the Gold Coast Titans. I don't know how much more I need to say, but he'll be playing opposite Brian Kelly, who is not a recognised defensive centre. So I think the Storm could send quite a bit of traffic down that right edge to good effect, and I think Sever can cross for a try. He's shown some nice finishing qualities in recent weeks, just showing strength close to the line, and that can count for plenty. Warbrick is one of in fact, he is the shortest odds for an anytime try scoring bet playing outside Sever. But if there's half a gap and Warbrick is creating enough doubt out on that edge, then Sever just goes himself, a show and a go, and he's in. So at $2.85, I think there's excellent value there. And I'm tipping the Storm to cover in this game. I just don't know how much the Titans are going to have left in the tank here. And you look at their team on paper as well. I mean, it's not pretty. They do get Brimson back, and Kieran Foran back, but no Tanner Boyd. They've got a dude named Tom Weaver as their starting number 7 in this one. Chris Randall has been serviceable, but not spectacular at hooker. And, they're just kind of hanging on for dear life at this point, the Titans. They've had a few outs, and I think the Storm could put a cricket score on them.
Okay, I like it. I like a lot. And it's one thing we've seen this year that the Titans, the games have been fun to watch because there's always been a lot of points. But let's move ahead. Saturday evening, Allianz Stadium, 5:30 p.m. The Sydney Roosters are $1.16 against the West Tigers at $5.90. Minus 15.5 for the Chooks, plus 16.5 for the West Tigers. Over-under is 45.5, sorry. The Roosters have won 16 of the last 17 against the Tigers, and they have covered in the last 6 straight. Did the West Tigers get that, we fell over and won a game last week, and this is the week where the Roosters go, righto, we're actually coming in with a hunt here, trying to peak in September, and this is a cricket score because in the last 3 games, the Roosters have won 38-16, 40-6, and 72-6. Don't get me started on how dumb it is that this is the first time these two have played all season.
Yeah, the Rooster season is kind of playing out to a similar arc as what happened last year. They have left their run a little bit tighter this time around. Admittedly, they're still only in 10th spot, and they've got to
supporting
climb over
teams from Moore Park has been fun this year.
Sorry,
supporting teams from Moore Park has been a lot of fun this year for me and my heart rate.
It's been a journey. They've still got to climb over the Rabbitohs who have the bye this week. So they're not doing that this week. It'll come down to their match next week, obviously. And we're assuming the Cowboys are going to win as well, which means the Roosters simply have to win this game. And whether they can do it emphatically or not, we'll have to wait and see. No James Tedesco probably doesn't help their chances, admittedly.
Yep.
Which is an out for them. Joey Manu back to fullback, of course. But yeah, look, I think most people like the Roosters in this game. Obviously, the odds would suggest as much. This game is going to be a real journey for me personally. This is fantasy grand final week, and I've got about 8 or 9 of my uni mates that I'm in a league with up in Sydney. We've booked out a place at Surrey Hills for Saturday, Sunday evening, and we're going to this game, and I'm in the fantasy grand final against one of the boys, and I'm the Joey Manu and Joseph Swali'i and George Sewer Wong owner. So I am really hoping that the Roosters just head down that right edge all night long and score some serious points out there. I hope Swali'i has a hat trick in him. Joey Manu runs for 300 metres and has a couple of try assists. That would be absolutely lovely. I'm just saying all this because it's really hard for me to not look at this, without tri-coloured glasses, to be perfectly honest. And my heart is saying that the Roosters cover the 15.5 point start. My head's saying, who really knows?
Fair. It's Chook's win. Maybe take an alternate line of like 8 or 9.5, something like that. Let's move on to a very interesting game on Saturday night, though, as the Canberra Raiders at $3.65 host the Brisbane Broncos at $1.31. The line is 10.5. The over is 45.5. The under is 44.5. And in my research getting ready for the podcast, in the last 9 matches at Bruce Stadium, the opposition right winger has scored a try against Canberra. There is your stat. Brisbane's right winger, just a lump on your week's pay, but gamble responsibly.
Yeah, but interestingly, it looks like Albert Hopoate, who is their starting left winger, could be in some doubt. So what they do, we'll have to wait and see. They've named James Schiller on the bench, who is a back in jumper 16. So in that bench rotation, he's a young, inexperienced player, has a go, but yeah, I think there could be plenty of traffic down that right edge. Selwyn Cobbo potentially load up on him. I'm a Farnworth and Ezra Mam owner in that same fantasy comp, so I'm hoping that they score most of their points down the opposite edge. To be fair, but yeah, no, look, it's not a bad shout. Interestingly, when I looked at some of the tipping comp on NRL.com, like almost half of the tipsters took the Raiders. I don't know if that's just trying to find that point of difference, and this is that option for this weekend. But I mean, the line's at 10.5, so you would think that 9 out of 10 tipsters would take the Broncos in this game. In saying that, you might recall earlier this year, the Raiders went up to Suncorp Stadium
It was their first win, wasn't it?
In Jared Croker. It was their second win, I believe, because they'd beaten the Sharks earlier on. But it was Jared Croker's first game of the year, and they somehow managed to win against all odds. The Raiders would have been paying about $7, and that kind of got
they were
their
16.5 point outsiders. I've got it in front of me.
Sorry?
They were 16.5 point outsiders.
Yeah, well, there you go. The Raiders might just draw on that for some confidence heading into this game, and it is an important, like a very important game for the Raiders as well. Win and they lock in their top 8 credentials. Win and they're probably going to claim a home final as well, because either the Sharks or the Knights are losing on Sunday, the teams either side of them. So, look, there is a lot to play for the Raiders, and for that reason, with the absence of Adam Reynolds as well for the Broncos, I think the Raiders can hold them off with the 10.5 point start.
Okay. Well, the Raiders have won 4 of the last 5 between the two, so very interesting. Let's move to a game that isn't very interesting, as it is Canterbury taking on Manly. Canterbury $2.55, Manly $1.56, plus 5.5, minus 4.5. The over-under is 46.5. Manly has won 8 of the last 9, and in the one loss, they lost by a point. They do have a 66-0 victory over the Dogs about a couple of years ago. Both teams are horrendously out of form. I simply do not care.
Yeah, I don't care either. Manly have failed to cover the line in 5 of their last 6 matches as the favourite, which is interesting, but it's a 5.5 point line. I mean, it's not massive. Ruben Garrick being out will hurt them, though, the Seagulls. They've got Tolu Kula pushing back to fullback, and so they've got Morgan Harper and Brad Parker as their starting centres, which is very journeyman, incredibly journeyman, as is Raymond Vaenga out on the left wing. So, like Jason Starb and Tolu Kula are the only sort of flyers and recognised finishers in this team. They're still trying to figure out their best 5'8". They've got Jake Arthur starting there this week with Josh Schuster being dropped. And it's they've got Trebojevic, but outside of that, it's a pretty makeshift forward pack as well. Hormole Olakau'atu is there, but this team on paper is not a team that I'm getting overly excited about. The Bulldogs have sort of slowly been their team on paper has been slowly just getting a bit stronger. They've got Addo-Carr, they've got Burton, they've got Viliame Kikau. I don't mind Harrison Edwards as their starting 13 as well, because they've really been struggling to find a good option there. And they've got a decent bench. Again, more minutes into Luke Thompson over the last couple of weeks. Tavita Pangai Jr. may be playing one of his last games of rugby league, full stop. We'll have to wait and see with Kyle Flanagan coming off the bench as well. So I actually don't mind the Bulldogs just winning this game outright at $2.55 on TopSport. And, on that basis, I'm certainly taking them with the 5.5 point start if it is a game that stays close.
Okay, I like it. I like it a lot. Let's move ahead to what is the final game of the round, and it is probably the most interesting and sort of important games for both teams. It's at McDonald Jones Stadium, of course, that is at Newcastle, as the Knights are $1.68 taking on Cronulla, $2.30, minus 3.5 for the Knights, plus 3.5 for the Sharks. Over under 44.5. The Knights have won 7 on the bounce. Now, the Knights, they're on 31 points in 7th. The Sharks are on 32 in 5th. A win for either team, you reckon, would seal their final spot?
Yeah, it's a huge game. It's going to be massive for a lot of fantasy people out there. This is the final match of the round, and smart fantasy comps have their grand final week this week, not next week when there's all sorts of resting going on.
Yeah.
Sunday afternoon, clear your schedules. It's just going to be
about time
unreal.
we get a great Sunday afternoon game. Like, honestly, none of this crap, 16th and 17th. We have final spots on the line. We've got this in the AFL as well with the Swans taking on the Ds at the SCG. So well done, broadcasters. It's taken you 6 months.
Indeed. Interestingly for the Sharks, even though we've kind of been criticising their poor defence pretty much all season, Cronulla's last 4 matches have gone under the total match points line, which sits around that 44.5 for this week. So that's interesting. Now, the Sharks, they have turned things around in recent weeks after that embarrassing 28-0 loss against the Panthers, and they lost to the Seagulls before that, and then they lost to the Warriors before that. So that they went on a bad run, but they have turned it around in the last 3 weeks. A quality win in North Queensland last Thursday night. They beat the Titans by 30, and they beat the Rabbitohs by 10 over in Perth, of course. So they've certainly turned things around, and purely based on the due theory, I think the Knights are due for a loss. They've won 7 on the trot. The Newcastle Knights rugby league team are just absolute experts at disappointing their fans. And in front of a packed McDonald Jones Stadium on a sunny Sunday afternoon, I haven't even looked at the weather forecast, but I'm assuming it's just going to be glorious rugby league conditions. I think the Knights will lay an egg, and the Sharks will win this game at $2.30 on Better.
I love it. It is meant to be slightly overcast on Sunday afternoon, so tins on the hill could be a very depressing time for the Sharks, but the Knights. But they'll still have a chance next week, I believe, to play that and have the bye in the final. And they've got the Dragons, so ideally they win this and then they hopefully knock off the Dragons to play in finals. But hey, Phil, that is all games done and dusted this week, so which means it's time for...
It's best bets, it's time for all the best bets.
Thanks, Jim. All right, what is your best bet this weekend? And then we can get on to player props. Yeah,
so I've sort of alluded to each of them individually, but I'm up for same group of guys. I'm up on duty for Punters Club this week. So I figure I'll put my money where my money actually is. I'll put my mouth where my money literally is. I should say. And I've gone Parramatta at the line with the 19.5 point start in this Thursday night game. I've got Ravalawa anytime try scorer, and this bet is on Ladbrokes at $2.20. And I've got Marion Sevet anytime try scorer at $2.75 to score against the Gold Coast Titans in the Saturday early game. So Ravalawa $2.20, Sever $2.75, Parramatta at the line $1.90. Odds with a little bit of an odds boost is at $12.13. So this multi roughly spits out $11 something, and that's what I'm on.
Okay, I don't mind it at all. So then we'll go to our next one. Thanks to Jim again.
It's time for player props.
Now, you seem pretty keen on a couple of try scorers, so please give us your best 2 for the weekend.
Okay, yeah, we'll take Ravalawa once again down that right wing. I've mentioned that most of the reasons why. Consider also the fact that the Warriors conceded 3 tries to Saab last week down that side of the field, down their left wing defence. So I think Ravalawa just has to be an absolute special to score this week. And I mentioned one earlier, Dylan Brown, at really juicy odds, $6.40.
Yep.
I really like that one.
I like that one a lot.
Jermaine Isako, he's just been in try-scoring form all year. And the Cowboys are going to concede some points, even though they're strong favourites in that game at Suncorp Stadium. Isako scored one in his last 4, and he's paying $2.10 on Bet365. So there's 3 good ones.
Okay, I like it now. We've got one more. This one's coming from me before we finish up.
Rate my multi.
I'm bringing all the segments across the NRL show finally. All right, please rate this multi. It's alternate handicaps except for the Melbourne Storm. So I'm taking the Melbourne Storm at their line. This is all via Ladbrokes, -18.5. Penrith Panthers -9.5. New Zealand Warriors -11.5. Just the Cowboys head-to-head, just in case, Wayne Bennett somehow lifts them once again for a derby. And the Sydney Roosters are -10.5. Those 5 legs will get you $7.50. Phil, rate my multi.
Look, I don't love it. I think you should be in double digits. I think you should be in double digits there for all 5 of those outcomes to eventuate.
Yeah,
I've already told you that my special for the weekend is Parramatta at the line, and now you're going to force this game into a window between the Panthers winning it by less than 19.5, but more than 10, or 10 or more.
Yeah.
So
24-10 is beautiful as we hit the under as well.
Even though the Roosters have come good, I'm still having trouble trusting them to win by a couple of scores.
Yep.
So look, I'm going to rate that a 3 out of 10.
Oh, that's a down way to finish the show this week. But you know what? We're back next week. I'll be taking an absolute lap of honour because we are done here today on the CodeBet NRL show. Please go to the website. Check out all of Phil's write-ups. They are going up as we speak. Of course, tonight's game is already up there. Friday, Saturday, Sunday will all be up there by the time you get there tomorrow afternoon. But please check out all of our social medias as I look to my right to check the cheat sheet. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, X, and of course, Threads. A lot of fun stuff going up there at the moment. We're actually going to strap Stats Guy to a bus at some stage soon, and he has to do stat of the day from there. That was an idea thrown out recently. But Phil, thank you once again, mate. We are so close to finals, and next week is going to be a tough one because who knows what teams are going to be selected. So we'll go with the Thursday recording once again to hopefully have somewhat of an idea as to what's going to happen.
Yep, a 27-round NRL competition. That's what happens. We've got Origin interruptions for about 7 or 8 of them, and you get all these weird-looking lineups. It's going to happen next week as well. So enjoy this weekend because most teams still have something to play for. And I think we've run through in great detail some of the things that we're looking forward to about the round 26 slate.
I love it. Thank you very much, Phil. Of course, punters, make sure you gamble responsibly, and we will catch you next week on the CodeBet Daily NRL Show.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.